What's your public restroom or locker room horror story? I was at a track meet last week and just ate a huge lunch after a race, so I needed to take a massive sheet. I waddle into a stall and plop myself down on the toilet seat. I then proceed to push out the most gut-wrenching sheet of my life. As I finish wiping and get up, I realize that a line had built up outside the stalls. I flush the toilet and it doesn't go down. The water level doesn't go down either. I then proceed to go on a walk of shame out of the stall as around 10 other dudes see my sheet slowly rise out of the toilet bowl and overflow into the ground, seeping its way to the low corner of the bathroom. About 10 years ago, me and some friends were driving back from the lake. I had to poop bad, so I asked the driver to pull over at the next exit. All I had on was flip-flops and swimming trunks. My one buddy, being an asshole, ran past me to take the stall and I was left to wait for him in this old style restroom. Next, this old man busted through the door, pants around ankles, shuffling his feet, holding his big dick. He was projectile sheeting streams of diarrhea all over behind him. He shuffled past me, pushing on the stall door, which my buddy had locked. I was pressed up against the wall, scared to death of the horror I was witnessing. The old man looked around, spotted one of those long urinals that go all the way to the floor, and made a spin for it. He turned his body to head to the urinal and spray painted an enormous load of diarrhea across my legs and feet. I screamed out in terror like I had just been fatality wounded. The old man bent over the urinal, pumping loads against the back of the urinal as it splattered everywhere. He just looked at me with these dead eyes and said, "Goddamn diarrhea." Double quote. I will never forget that day, for however long I live. I ran a venue that sometimes held raves back in the late 90s. My girlfriend came to one with her best friend. I let them in free. At some point in the night, somebody came up and told me people were having sex in the men's room. My assistant manager and I went in. He thought he was hilarious and kicked open the stall and yelled, "You cannot have sex in here." There was my girlfriend's best friend trying to give a BJ to a guy who couldn't get it up because of the Drew Gus or whatever. She was clearly all ducked up and was kneeling in an inch of sheety water because the toilet had backed up and overflowed. Did a sheet at the cricket and there was no toilet paper. It was before the start of the first women's game of the season, so unsurprisingly I was alone in the toilet. I had no tissues, and I had to wait until the next person came in. After sitting there for about a minute, contemplating whether or not I could use my old cardigan and dump it, a 12-year girl came in who passed me under a very decent amount of toilet paper. I said thank you to the girl but also sung her praises to her mum waiting outside. I was so relieved. The story is long but I'm very embarrassed until this day. I'm on the way home from my friend's house and things started to get worse. I need to sheet so bad that I immediately went to the nearest public restroom. Upon arriving, only one cubicle is available because the other two are out of service. I also find it strange that there are no urinals inside this bathroom. But anyways, after doing my business, I just realized that the flush is not working and there's just an empty pail beside me. I was about to get water on the drum at the corner of the bathroom when 3-4 girls went inside the bathroom. I'm still inside the cubicle and I know that they are going to use the toilet. Since only one cubicle is available, they are just waiting for me to finish. When I got out, they started screaming and asking what I'm doing inside the girls' bathroom. One of them saw my pile of sheet and told her friends about it. Then, they look at me with disgust and left the bathroom immediately. I'm a guy BTW. I was coming back from a road trip and we were driving for 3 hours non-stop. At this point I really needed to pee but we couldn't find a place to stop at. After another hour I was very desperate and felt like my bladder was going to explode, haha, so luckily we found a gas station with a bathroom. I was running to the bathroom, the only one there, when I see two little girls giggling and running away from there. Long story short, there was poop all over the walls, floor, sink, everywhere. I mean, I couldn't hold it anymore, so I just closed my eyes, did my best squat, Went to my car and tried to pretend that never happened. I walked into a locker room to see a naked fellow standing in the shower area, no water running, covered head to toe in soap suds so thick that it may have been shaving cream. The only thing not covered was his eyes. Not me, but my mom once got caught in the clean cycle of a self-cleaning public restroom. I've never even heard of such a thing. Is it kind of like one of those automatic car washes? 'Cause that's what I'm picturing. They used to have them in downtown Copenhagen. It's a completely sealed unit. You pay to get in. Do your business, and when you exit the door locks and the whole stall is automatically cleaning with this high pressure water system. Some random girl once saved my butt as I was trying to sneak in after her without paying. Basically she had paid, was done and coming out of the stall. She stopped me as I held the door trying to enter and was like, "I wouldn't do that if I were you. The whole thing flushes." I closed the door and you can hear the stall being pressure hosed down from the outside. Damn, I owe that girl some karma. Actually, here's one. In line at a festival to go to the Portaloo. And there is someone holding up the toilet for a good 15 minutes. Everyone in the line started getting annoyed and ranty. Until one chick ran up and ripped the door open. There were 2 girls wearing overalls, pulled down round their middle, with bobs hanging out, and started to yell at everyone while rubbing at their noses. They yelled something about taking a sheet, changing tampons and having a chunder. But me thinks it may have had more to do with the coke up their butts and noses. Not exactly a horror story, but kind of relevant. Maybe a horror story for the mom. Tough. This one time when I was a kid and was playing at the playground, I saw a kid marking a circle in the sand. He then stood in the middle of it, pulled down his pants and squatted down. That's when his mom rushed in and pulled him away. Apparently he wanted to take a sheet and somehow figured this was a good spot. At the gym, they have community towels for wiping sweat off the machines. Just grab a towel and do your thing. At the end of your workout, throw it in the towel bin. I sweat. I mean, wet t-shirt contest looking type sweat. So not only do I wipe the machines thoroughly when done, I also have to keep wiping the sweat from my brow. When I had finished my workout, I went to the locker room to change, setting my towel, my phone, and my earbuds on the bench. I open my locker, take out my bag, and begin to change. There were other guys in there in close proximity, so I just kept my eyes forward and went about my business. Sweating. Still sweating. After putting in my clean shirt, I grabbed my sweat towel off the bench and wiped my face. Then I started putting my gym stuff into my bag. I looked at the bench and saw my phone and earbuds. They were still sitting on my sweat towel, the towel I had used during my workout. Slowly I looked down at my hand, at the other towel I just wiped my face with. It wasn't mine. It was so wet. In the stall where I work there are 5 stalls. 1 is handicap accessible and 2 leak in the back so that when you sit down you just have this constant drip on your lower back. The other 2 were in use, so knowing that no handicap people work there, I use the handicap one. Of course this is a day that a really higher up supervisor in a wheelchair that normally works in the office about 4 miles away has a meeting and needs to use the restroom after said meeting. I had only seen this guy once a couple years earlier when I started at this job. I leave, head sunken apologetically, and he just gives me this knowing look, not mean or upset. Just knowing. Still keeps me up some nights. I was like 6-9 and I had the nastiest sheet ever. The toilet wouldn't flush, so I kinda just waddled away hoping nobody used it. It was the only toilet in the whole place. Me and my friends who were waiting for me were playing with sticks, and I hear this guy who walked in yell "Holy Mother of God" and walk out eyes watery. I once had a parent-teacher conference in the nude. I was teacher. I was a member in a gym. Finally decided I could just change and not duck into one of those tiny rooms. Standing in my underwear when I hear MRS. Mel 2 MDL. Oh. You teach my son? Yep. I sure do. My principal allowed me to count it towards my conference hours. So there is that. Not horror, but weird. In military basic training there are no doors on stalls. Pretty shocking for 100 new guys who lived at home the day before. We all have to go at the same time and stand in line waiting for next guy to get off the pot. Well, turns out about 2 out of 100 guys on my team wipe from back to front. They actually stand up after taking a dump. And then wipe their ass from back to front by reaching between their legs. Those two caught hell in the form of laughter and ridicule from the 98% that wipe normally. They changed their ways. But now I know. Some of you guys out there are wiping from back to front. It's 2% of you from my experience. You're doing it wrong. In case no one ever told you. I entered a Target bathroom to see a fairly skinny black man standing butt naked bird bathing in the sink. His clothes were strewn around on the floor. He looked at me, said sorry, and backed into the stall. I wasn't disturbed by this enough to back out now and I went to use the bathroom. In the stall was a pair of sheet-filled underwear. I'm not talking smear. I'm talking full-on soft pile of sheet in his panties. Smelled horrible. I went and told the Target associates. I told them there's some sheet-filled clothes in the bathroom. The teenager replied back, not again. Target bathrooms are always a gamble. I had to go to a meeting across the state. It was a long drive. I'd had a lot of coffee. So I went into the restroom about 30 minutes into the meeting when I thought no one would be in there to have what we in the caffeine addiction biz like to call an us disaster. So I go into a stall and just start going ham. Just anus blasting. You'll know what it's about. After the London Blitz was over I'm fumbling around for toilet paper. In a half squat. Looking less human and more ape than normal. Just dicking the TP dispenser BC, all the paper was jammed inside it at a weird angle. I get it out and start doing damage control on my asshole when this lady just ducking busts into my stall. The lock was kinda screwy but absolutely engaged and I had a purse on the floor as a backup signal to passers-by, but this dolt just ducking slams into my stall. She saw my whole situation. I didn't even feel like a person. I felt like a toilet paper monster. There was sheet on my butt cheeks and this lady stumbles in like a gazelle happening upon to lions having gross disgusting lion sex. But does she leave? Like a sensible person? Does she say oops my bad for ripping that lock apart and ignoring the several other unoccupied and obviously open stalls and going directly for the closed looking one? The sheet noises emanating from it like goddamn goms over London? No. She looks me dead in the eye and goes, why didn't you lock the door, and just waits for an explanation. Like, lady no. Go away. Now I am the gazelle and she's the ducking lion. I just take the hand not covered in cheaty TP and start slamming at the door until she gets the hint. I also clogged that toilet. But plunged it so no hard feelings. The worst part? I'm technically her boss. I don't know if the school restrooms technically count as public restrooms. But nevertheless. The year was 2001. I was in year 2 at school and my younger brother had just started kindergarten. Whenever the bell would chime to signify the end of recess, there would always be a bathroom rush while everyone relieved themselves before heading to class. One particular recess, I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of other kids. Taking a leak into the urinal. Without warning, I feel a solid shove between my shoulder blades and, try as I might to delay the inevitable, I topple into the little gutter area of the trough. Many of the kids tried to aver their streams, but it was too late. I was soaked from falling in AMD, then some from above. And as I looked back up, shielding my eyes from the burning rain, who should I see but my younger looking down at me. I may have been covered in urine, but I assure you he was the one with a sheet-eating grin. For whatever reason, he had just thought it would be funny to shove me into the urinal. The joke was on him though, because the teachers quickly decided that I'd had enough for one day and called our mum to go pick me up. My brother didn't understand why I got to go home early and he didn't. I can still picture the look on his face as I waved at him through the window as the car drove away and the teachers were scolding him. I was studying for finals in my university's library and had to take a sheet. The restroom was dead silent. Until I heard a rhythmic noise nearby. I thought, gee, is someone putting on lotion or what? The noise persisted and it started to intensify. It then dawned on me. Fapping. And the worst part? It stopped mid-sheet. Some dude came in my vicinity. And to be completely honest, I have a problem with that. This didn't happen to me but to my flatmate. So basically we've just moved to Paris as part of a year abroad program and my flatmate I guess must give off some feminine vibes, long hair and thin maybe, or something like that, as quite often creepy older guys in Paris would like look at him and lick their lips or whatever. So one day, he really needs to sheet and goes to the public toilets in one of the biggest stations in city. So as he's on the toilet, a hand appears under the wall from the adjacent stall. Thinking this guy wants toilet paper, he drops some near his hand and the guy takes it. All good. Just helping a bro out. Then the hand comes back and starts making a jerking motion for a bit. My mate is obviously like, okay, this is weird, and doesn't really know what to do, so he just kinda ignores it and tries to carry on with what he's doing. Then, like a minute after the guy retracted his hand, his whole head appears from under the wall. He is literally just staring at my friend creepily while he's having a sheet in a public toilet. I should mention this guy is like 70 and my friend is 21. So my mate has no idea what to do, so I think just kinda kicks at him until he removes his face from under the wall and hurries his sheet up, pun intended, and like runs out. I mean, that was a shock for week 1 in a new city. I'm sure you're expecting fesses. Dirty, insane people. But this is a bit different. I was in a stall in an old bar on the border of Canada and the US. I heard a big bang on the door. The friend I was with has no boundaries, so I looked under the door to prevent her from crawling under it. Nothing. Nobody. I finish my business and go to leave the stall. It's unlocked. I was drunk, so maybe I forgot, but I haven't ever before. Now, the door opened in. So with the door unlocked, whatever banged did it from the inside. I go out to the table and say I just had the most tucked up bathroom experience almost in unison. They all said a ghost. First night staying at my girlfriend's house and I get bad diarrhea. After spending 20 minutes filling the bowl with liquid chocolate, I go to flush. And to my horror, the toilet blocks. For some reason, the bathroom had no plunger, toilet brush, or anything I could use to remedy the situation. After panicking for a few minutes, I noticed the smell was getting bad in the bathroom. And to save embarrassment in front of my girlfriend's family who I just met, I had to clear the toilet ASAP. I made a split-second decision to shove my arm down the toilet and clear the pipe by hand. I didn't quite register what I had done until I was scraping my toilet paper and sheet from out of the pipes. God must have smiled upon me because the next flush worked perfectly. Although the toilet was clear, my conscience was not. I was just coming out of the shower in the women's locker room after swimming in the pool, when an extremely large, completely naked woman bends over and pulls out a bloody tampon. We were nowhere near the restroom portion of the locker room. It was very traumatic. I was out shopping with my toilet training toddler son and infant daughter when my son said he needed to go. Made our way to facilities, we discovered there was no parents' room where I could park the stroller and help my son. No problem, I thought, we'll just duck into the accessible for a minute. The door was equipped with a push button. My son, a rampant button pusher, gleefully hit it, only to be met with the sight and sound of an elderly woman screaming whilst sitting on the loo with her pants around her ankles, obviously regretting not locking the door. This was unfortunate enough. However, the door had a timer to allow people plenty of time to get through. I stood awkwardly in the doorway trying to shield the poor woman from passing shoppers' view whilst inwardly dying of shame. Longest 30 seconds of my life. Been to a mountain resort up in Switzerland and was rushing for the toilet before the brown prawn breaks through the manhole. Put down the toilet seat and discovered a line of excrement lining the seat. That was disgusting. Back in JR High, I was just using the bathroom Then I look up and see one of the chicks I hang out with just watching me pee. It was so weird and she just started laughing and kept watching. Afterwards when we got back to the group she was bragging about how she was watching me pee and everyone was laughing with her about it. To this day I guess it was okay because she was seen and this super pretty chick that could do no wrong. Stuff was weird.